Hi, this is Larry DiTillio, writer for He-Man and Beast Wars, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
And the Masters of the Universe. I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull." Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
Yeah, you're probably going to have to get the images from now until we finish all 4 of these damn podcasts. Well, maybe not all 4 of them, but at least for the rest of He-Man, because I can't. I try getting images from Hulu, but because Hulu, when I pause it, it won't, because I have to use it on their website. I fucking hate that.
A female He-Man! Oh, this is the worst day of my life!
Oh! I've never seen so many flyers.
Something must be happening, something big.
We better get to Whispering Woods fast.
I get you. By the power of Grayskull.
For the honor of Grayskull.
Double trouble!
Let's move, Cat.
Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of the Powers of Grayskull series here on the Geekcast Radio Network. I'm, of course, TFG1Mike. That's right, the fucking great one is here, along with my idiot co-host OptimusSolo.
I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Yes, it really does. And this is POGS episode 100. We are here to talk about stuff. Originally, the plan for this was that Kevin was actually going to be here at my house, and we were going to do the commentary for the 1987 live-action film. Due to Skeletor and his evil warriors, that has not happened yet. We now have that planned for episode 120. If it doesn't happen by then, I'm going to just have to, stalk Kevin and make sure he gets his ass over here, because I sure as hell ain't going out to whatever the hell name your county is, Rockford County or whatever it's called out there. But yes, 100th episode of the podcast. It's only taken us 7 years to get here. We should have been here at year 2, but, life is the way it is and the way it was.
I blame Mike.
I don't think so.
For at least half of it.
No, maybe a quarter of it, not half. Come on now.
We'll settle on a third.
I don't think so. And yeah, we are gonna, like I said, we switched it around. We are gonna be talking about the Power of Grayskull, the definitive history of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This is done by Definitive Films. They've done a couple of these. I don't know how many, but I remember when this was announced, I was like, ooh, very, very cool. Can't wait to see that. This was, I think, 1 or 2 years ago that this was out. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Last year.
Was it? Okay, it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to talk about something very sad. You didn't get the chance to do this. I did, and Michael Wilson did, because it was part of our Beast Wars podcast. But about 9 years ago, we got a chance to talk to Larry DiTillio. And Larry is a guy that wrote our childhood. He's one of the many that wrote our childhood, that helped shape the cartoons that we watched when we grew up in the 80s, in the 90s. He recently passed away. I saw Christy Marks post about this, and I was not sure, like, you know, most people on Facebook are, oh, I'll just share. I wasn't going to disrespect her post because it was set to, you know, not public. And I messaged her and I said, hey, you know, I'm sorry to hear about Larry's passing. You know, let me know when I can share this news when it becomes public. I don't want to do it before then, kind of thing. Kind of like, you know, paying respects to the family kind of thing. Even though Christy isn't a part of his family, but she worked with him all those years. And yeah, so we're going to dedicate this episode to Larry. It was super fun and informative. I know you and I had wanted to get him back on here before the end of this podcast, and
Yeah, we took too long.
yeah, well, life just happens, folks. I mean, there's, you know, the Carpe Diem only goes so far. You can only seize the day so many times before life just kicks you right in the nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, he started off way back when. 1972 was his first writing credit with Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. And then really got into it, obviously, in the 80s with what we've been talking about with He-Man. He-Man, She-Ra, etc. was kind of like the initial breakthrough.
Yeah, he was the guy. There would be no She-Ra, Princess of Power, without Larry DiTillio. He was the guy that actually named her She-Ra.
Right. He and whatchamacallit did most of the Bible for She-Ra as far as setting up what that series was going to be, even though, you know, for He-Man he was mainly a writer. He was really given the reins for She-Ra and what it was going to become and kind of to pull that all off. So yeah, he actually gets credit. He even has a credit in the most recent She-Ra series because they credit him as the creator of the character.
Right, yeah.
For She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which just came out last year as well. So 1972, technically his last writing credit, unless the one that was in pre-production at the time of his passing gets made and finished, actually his last writing credit, from what I can tell, is from Transformers Animated.
Oh, wow.
Which is 2009. So it'd been a while since he had been writing. IMDb does list him as a writer for a thing called Clive Barker's The Coat Room, which is in pre-production. So we'll have to wait and see if something happens with that or not. But otherwise, 2009, Predacons Rising would have been his last writing credit for Transformers Animated. So kind of full circle back to kind of that action series that he started with, like He-Man, She-Ra, and then obviously into like the world of Transformers, which you guys have spent quite a deal talking about some of the other episodes he wrote for Beast Wars.
Yep.
Obviously in the Beast Unleashed podcast.
Yep. It was him and Bob Forward all over that series.
Right, so he wrote 13 episodes of Beast Wars, I believe. Had some writing credits in the 2002 series of He-Man, which we're about to get to in The Powers of Grayskull. So those are probably the things that are closest to our hearts as far as things that we kind of have a close tie to. But a smattering of other shows as well. Rock and Wrestling, I guess, would be the next closest, kind of up our alley. A few things in Captain Power and Centurions, Bionic 6, Galaxy High School, et cetera, et cetera. But those are the main things that I knew him from. And I think we talked about it quite a bit with back when we were talking about the Filmation series with both He-Man and She-Ra, specifically He-Man, that when we did the wrap-up of that episode and I did some statistics to kind of see, which writers, because we ranked the episodes obviously with no knowledge of who wrote them necessarily. We gave our typical rating score just based on the story, based on the episode, what we liked, what we didn't like. And then after all was said and done, I actually compiled it based on the writers to see if there was specific writers we liked more or less. And it was probably no surprise to us that the Larry DiTillio episodes were of the most high rankings of that series.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those two series, both He-Man and She-Ra, he created characters like Granomir and Huntara and just really, really cool, interesting characters.
Right.
I mean, he was responsible for all of that. Obviously, other people like Lou Scheimer, were responsible for getting He-Man off the ground and things like that. But Larry's contributions, that series, that whole franchise would not be what it was and what it is to people now without Larry DiTillio.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, you can go back into the archives of the Powers of Grayskull series to kind of see some of the episodes that we really raved, but I would suggest going and looking at the recap of both the He-Man and the She-Ra series, specifically of the He-Man series, because I think that's when we get into it the most, but especially his work with Granomir, and he had multiple episodes that were related to that character. So it was, he was really good at what he did, and if you are familiar with him, if you were a fan of kind of a lot of the cartoons of the 80s and 90s, I would suggest also, I know Christy Marks commented on it as well, but I would search out J. Michael Straczynski on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Or Facebook. I found it through Twitter, but he has a link to a message that he posted on Facebook, and it's quite a lengthy message, and he goes into the fact that, for almost a decade they were basically best friends. Mm-hmm. Larry was in He-Man first, and then Straczynski came in after that, but then Straczynski left, and a lot of the projects he was involved with, he brought Larry with him. They were really good friends. Their families knew each other, etc. They had a falling out later on in life and kind of didn't speak for a long time, and then kind of sort of reconnected through some of the conventions and whatnot. But I would suggest going and finding his Facebook post, because it's a good insight into kind of the person Larry DiTillio was and kind of the respect he had from fellow writers and people involved in the behind the scenes of these shows.
Yeah, when I saw that Christy had posted that, I actually sent her a message on Facebook, and I'm one of those people that I don't type on smartphones. I just don't. My fingers are too fat, so I use voice command all the time.
Right.
And I teared up when I sent her this. And this is just my own personal message to her. I just read your post about Larry. I'm so sorry to hear of his passing. There are no words I could say to you or to anyone who was closer to him than I was to help in this process. All I can say is that he helped shape all of us 80s kids' childhoods, just like you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And I think even a lot of people that didn't realize it, it's like the people that don't realize, certain people voiced a lot of the characters they loved or different things of that nature. Like he wrote a lot of the different series that at least our generation loved. So it was sad to see that, but he definitely left his mark and will be remembered through his writing for sure. And I think a lot of people that came after him kind of modeled some of the stuff they did after him.
Yep.
So...
yes, absolutely. And as I said earlier, we are here to talk about the documentary. We're going to hear you're going to take a quick break, and you're going to hear a line from Erica Scheimer and Alan Oppenheimer. We'll be back after this.
John Irwin, He-Man, really, really lovely, lovely man. He did his work, he was prepared, he got his lines, he really cared, and then he sort of disappeared.
For 2 years, I've tried. I said, if you came out, the line would be around the block between he and I. He just won't. He thinks about it like, oh, no, I'm not He-Man. I said, no shit. And I'm not Skeletor, so what?
The enigma about John Irwin is he's just an incredibly shy guy. Put him behind a microphone, off camera, he works great.
All right, folks, we are back, and holy crap, this documentary.
What did you think of it?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. A full-on, quote-unquote, definitive, not really quote-unquote, but, a full-on history of the entire brand that is Masters of the Universe.
Right.
And they left nothing out. And it's so, I don't mean to bring the show down again, but it's so weird watching this and seeing Dean Stefan, who was the 2002 series kind of guy, because he also passed away recently, not this year. I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah.
So when we do get to the 2002 series, every episode that we do of the 02 series is going to be dedicated to Dean's memory.
Yeah, for sure. This documentary, I mean, for me, it could have been like twice as long as it was, almost. I would have kept watching and kept getting more insight and whatnot. First off, I think anybody that's a He-Man fan of any kind, whether you were a fan of the 2002 series, whether you were a She-Ra fan, whether you were a New Adventures fan, whether you were just a fan of the toys or, whatever it might be, this is definitely worth checking out and getting to see the whole scope of what this franchise meant. Or even if you have no idea what He-Man is, but you know that people like from our generation loved it or have a fond memory of it, I think this gives you insight as to why, because it's definitely very in-depth. I mean, you're getting stuff about every series. You're getting stuff from behind the scenes from the writers. You're getting stuff from the voice actors. You're getting a good section of time spent with the movie, the live action movie. They go into the depth with that a lot. They talk about the toys and the collectible aspect of it. So I mean, it is very. I would almost put this, and then if almost add a little companion piece of that one episode of The Toys That Made Us that they go into even more with the He-Man toys. And even that could have been longer because I feel like they could have dealt with some of more of the individual toy lines. But if you watch both things, you're going to get a great breadth and depth of knowledge about all things He-Man, and it's very interesting. Also, I would say if you're a fan of the art, this is especially for you because they show a gazillion examples of drawings, of storyboards, of artwork, and I'm not just talking about the cartoon, I'm talking about the movie, I'm talking about, every aspect of this. They go into depth, and it's really kind of interesting to see some of the different takes on like the characters, what they might have looked like in early drafts, some of the stuff they were throwing around.
Well, the fact that they did, they had William Stout on there talking about his movie designs.
Yeah.
And the fact that when he originally designed it, He-Man had blood on his sword, and Mattel came back and was like, oh, no, He-Man doesn't kill. They had to kind of rechange it and whatever, and so he's flipping through all these pages in this documentary and then shows, obviously, what the final, the final thing ended up being.
Yeah, and just some great segments. Like, I really enjoyed the conversations they had with Frank Langella about the movie and about his playing of Skeletor and what kind of all that took and how much he a lot of times you see that like somebody's involved with one of these more maybe toy related or child related franchises and they kind of like try to shy away from it. You almost even got a little of that at first from Dolph, but it's nice to see someone like Frank who embraced it fully, who still considers it one of his favorite, if not his favorite roles, just because of what he was allowed to do and how much respect he had for the character and kind of the story and the franchise. And you can tell because in the movie he is probably one of the brightest spots, which we'll get to, down the road in episode 120. But so that was a lot of fun. And then for me, it's always fun kind of listening to the voice actors talk about it, which you got both, Alan Oppenheimer and some of the originals. Then you get some of like Brian Dobson and Cam Clark from the 2002 series talking. So that was a lot of fun as well. What was some of your favorite parts of this?
I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised that we did not see John Irwin. And it goes back to that clip I just played. He's a shy guy.
Yeah.
He's, a guy that he's one of those voice actors that, in the moment absolutely loves it, absolutely wants to put his all into it. But that's work. He leaves it there, he goes home, and he lives his life outside of whatever.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like they've had any luck in convincing him to go to one of these conventions at some point. But,
yeah, no.
It'd be nice if he did. That would be huge for fans. They would go nuts. They would lose their minds for that.
It's, it's like, Alan Oppenheimer said in the documentary, it's also like what people have been telling Frank Welker for years. And Frank Welker is now going to some of these Transformers conventions. Yeah. And it's not that we want to... I've said this before with anything. Doesn't matter if it's a Nickelback album. It doesn't matter if it's an episode of Knight Rider. I don't care what it is. If I'm a fan of someone or something that someone has done, that's what I care about. I don't want to know what they had for breakfast. I don't, in this age of social media and everybody puts everything online and everything else, I really don't care what Dolph Lundgren had for breakfast as long as he gives me a great performance as He-Man or as the guy from the Expendables movies or, Drago or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. Yes, I absolutely love the people that have done this stuff, but I'm not here to get into their personal lives. I mean, right. I mean, unless we're, interviewing them, sure, I'll ask them. I'm not going to ask them what they had for breakfast, but you know what I mean? Like, we'll ask those certain personal questions kind of a thing, and if they answer, they answer. If they don't, they don't. But when it comes to this whole celebrity business thing, I care about the property, and I care about the characters that people are enacting on the screen, stage, whatever, cartoons, whatever.
Yeah. I thought another thing that was neat about it is that it didn't really ignore any sections of the franchise's history. Like, it does talk about the new adventures for a little bit. It does even go into the, the classics line of toys and that part of it. So it doesn't, just because it wasn't, one of the TV series or it wasn't this, doesn't mean they ignore it. They kind of touch on all aspects. That's why I'm saying it could have even been longer, because I would have allowed them to, double the time they spent on a lot of that stuff. So it would have been really cool to even see more, but they do a very comprehensive job of that. And if you want more on the toys, like I said, you can check out that other episode, and then you have kind of a little bit of everything, even more in depth. But I think the only thing about these types of documentaries that bug me is I always get jealous when I see them interviewing or having someone that's being a part of it that all it says is like He-Man historian or He-Man collector or He-Man fan. I'm like, yes, I'm one of those too. Like,
yeah, but you got to be in the right place at the right time.
I know, but just you can't help but be like, how did you get on there?
Well, I could, I don't know the guy personally, but I can tell you why. Obviously, Val Staples was on there. Number one, he owns He-Man.org, the single largest He-Man website on the entire internet. James Eatock, the man has. I've talked to him several times on Facebook and Twitter. I want to get him on here for an interview. He did the He-Man and She-Ra Filmation. What's it? Guidebook or whatever it is called. A couple of years ago, and I specifically wanted for us to interview him for that, simply because we've spent the last 7 years going through all this stuff as well.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to see which fans they go to and which ones they contact. And as I said, it's probably, a matter of timing. Maybe they had flown out to LA or whatever. I mean, they can't get to all of us, sadly.
One day we'll be on one of these special features. But that's the only jealous part of me, because it is the same way with like some of who was the one guy that was doing all the special features on the DVDs for like Transformers and G.I. Joe, and he got to like insert all the information. I'm like, come on, I could have done that. But no, that's just jealousy, straight jealousy. But yeah, this is really cool. It gives you a little bit of every aspect of this show. It has a lot of main people involved in it, so you're not dealing. That's kind of one good thing though, is that it's not all fan stuff. This is a lot of the actual people involved, whether it be producing, writing, coming up with the toy line, the voice actors, the Lou Scheimers of the world. Like, you get stuff from everybody, so that's very cool, and it's nice to kind of see that insight.
It is, absolutely, and I loved the whole thing with Paul Cleveland and Mark. Mark Taylor and
Hold
Roger.
on. I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I have it playing in the background and it's showing all the interviews they did right now. Just listen to these names like Oppenheimer, Brian Dobson, David Wise, Dean Steffen, Cam Clark, Dolph Lundgren, Eric Scheimer, Franklin Jella, Gabe Kuth, J. Michael Straczynski, James Eatock, Larry DiTillio was interviewed in this, obviously. So, I mean, there, Tom Cito, Val Staples, like you talked about. I mean, it's just so many people that they got to be involved with this, and it's nice to see that all those people are proud of their part. And they were just talking about towards the end that it's one of the neat things about He-Man is it was so successful and it was so popular because of not just one person, but because of this barrage of people that played different parts of it, whether it was like they mentioned who came up with the name or who came up with the toy designs, who came up with the character backstories, the Filmation group that really kind of made it, popular and successful. Like there's so many different people that had to do something to make this successful. It's kind of a crazy story because you would think that would almost make it not possible, that it required so many different people, but they were able to pull it off.
Yep, absolutely. Different people with different skill sets that can add something to each part of,
right.
And
when they get into the toy development and how do they actually got the series to be pitched, it's so crazy because there were so many people that were literally saying stuff on the fly that they hadn't even planned. Like, like they were in the pitch meeting and, somebody was asking them something that they didn't have prepared. And they're like, yeah, we have that. Or, oh, we're going to do this to solve that problem, even though they had never discussed that before. And then they had to go and rush and get that together or this together. Like, it's such a crazy story, but it all worked.
Yep. Absolutely.
So any fan should check this out for sure.
Absolutely. It is on Netflix for anybody that wants to see it. I'm sure it's on DVD as well. I don't know, but I'm 99.9% sure.
If not, I'm sure it will be soon. And this is also something that was, I believe, a Kickstarter campaign to raise money for this. It is crazy too if you read all the names on the Kickstarter, like the thanks for the support, because some of these are people that I'm familiar with. Like some of these are people that I know from the internet. Like I know God, my mind just went blank. Who's our friend that does all the toy reviews?
That would be Optimus.
No. The other guy, the big He-Man guy.
Oh, Pixel Dan.
Yeah, he's on. His name is listed on here as somebody who donated to the Kickstarter. I didn't know this was a Kickstarter. Otherwise, I would have donated and got my damn name on the screen. But it was funny because I was reading through this the one time, just watching for all the names, and I'm like, wait a second, because there was a half a dozen names that we've had interactions with, that we've talked to, that we've had on the network and stuff like that. It was kind of crazy.
Yep. Very, very, very crazy.
I guess you got to pay attention to Kickstarter more.
Yeah, kind of. It also, since the last time we had a chance to record a podcast, since episode 99 came out, I don't know, earlier this year, late last year, I don't remember. Super 7, who is now doing the Masters of the Universe toy lines, has come out with Classics, the William Stout Collection. So it's classic style movie figures. So you get, Dolph Lundgren's He-Man, you get Frank Langella's, two versions of Frank Langella's Skeletor, and then you've got, what's his name? Gak, whatever his name is. The two figures that I would want if I was still collecting actual action figures and not just Funko Pops, the two Skeletors. They're amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't had a chance to check those out in depth, but I saw some snapshots that made me interested, so I'll have to check that out sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Just absolutely amazing. All right, so what else do we want to talk about in this 100th episode?
Well, I mean, not too much, except for obviously check this documentary out. It's only about an hour and a half. If you want more, there's obviously the comprehensive guide. You need to check that book out because we're going to be eventually discussing or at least mentioning some stuff about that.
Yep.
Check out the Toys That Made Us episode if you want more just specific toy-related information about it. And then obviously stay tuned for the last few episodes that we have of the new adventures, because then we're going to start having fun again. Then we're going to be getting into the 2002 series, and that's when it's going to be back to stuff we can enjoy. And it's going to kind of bridge the gap into more fun stuff coming from Mike and I.
Yep. Other stuff that isn't 7 years of the same franchise.
Yeah, we're going to be bouncing all over the place like a ping pong ball.
That's right.
Like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
Like a slinky.
Oh, God, stop.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's just been a wild ride. We've got 25 episodes left of the show. I'll say this now. We argued about it in a few earlier episodes. We're probably going to argue about it in a few of the episodes that you guys haven't heard yet because we've already pre-recorded them. We will come back and cover the new Shitra series at some point.
Why are you calling it that?
Because, I'm sorry.
It's really good.
Did you see the link I had sent you about the YouTube video for International Women's Day?
No, not yet.
Okay, so DreamWorks and the people that created and run and whatever for She-Ra and the Princesses of Power put out this video for International Women's Day. They all but tell you to ignore where the franchise started.
I'm going to have to reserve comment until I actually see it. Obviously,
yes, you will. But it's one of those things where it is one of the single most offensive videos I've ever seen coming from a reboot or a, kind of thing of, hey, this is a new series with, the franchise character, yada, yada, yada. The voice...
they're probably reacting more... I haven't seen it, but they're probably reacting more to the powers that be in the companies versus the actual series, because even the series, Larry DiTillio and J. Michael Straczynski and those people involved with She-Ra were even fighting that battle to try to make it so it wasn't this offensive, We'll get into it more, but...
we'll get into it more, but I'll say this right now.
The series was good, though.
The girl that voices Adora / She-Ra... no, the series is not good. It has
it is.
horrible, horrible moments.
No, the series is good overall.
No, not really. The girl that voices She-Ra / Adora basically says, oh, well, back in the day it was just, a bunch of boys' cartoons with girls worshiping them or something. Or I forget what she actually says, but she basically says that, it was nothing but boys' toys back then, which is not true. You look at Jem, you look at She-Ra, you look at, My Little Pony, Care Bears, all of that had female empowerment.
Yeah, like I said, I'll reserve until I actually get to see it, because I don't know if I can trust you, Mike.
Oh,
because you can trust me on this one. The series was good either, and the series was fantastic.
It has its moments that I have a lot of problems with.
I look forward to getting into those with you.
Yeah, that's going to be 2 or 3 years down the line. I need a break. Episode 125 is the stopping point for now, so we can continue on this other journey that we have, this weekday afternoon journey that we have. As OptimusSolo said, coming up is episode 101 to 107, which is the final episodes of the New Adventures, and then in episode 108 we start to get to the good stuff in the 2002 Masters of the Universe cartoon series. Anything else you want to pimp out before we get out of here?
Nope, just stay tuned to all our Twitter and Facebook pages so that you can kind of keep up to date with what's coming up and kind of some interesting changes and new things that are happening. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. Twitters are at Geekcast Radio for the network. I am at TFG1Mike. He is at OptimusSolo. You can also follow at Power of Grayskull for this show. Follow at Cinema Geekcast for his movie show that he does every 7 months.
We have had an episode almost every week or every other week in here in the last 3 months.
Oh, boy. For now, I am TFG1Mike with...
The OptimusSolo and TFG1Mike does not stand for the fucking great one.
Yes, it does.
Until next time.
No, it does. By the power and for the honor of Grayskull, we will catch you next time.
He's the only one that thinks that.
I am correct, and I'm the one that does the editing over here. I can cut you off anytime I want.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
Get ready for action-packed excitement as the most powerful man in the universe comes to television in a fantastic world of dragons and sorcery. Join He-Man and the Masters of the Universe right here Monday through Friday. They'll be coming your way soon. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.